Well, good afternoon, everyone, and afternoon to those joining us from the UK, as well as evening for those of you joining us from Sri Lanka. And welcome to another session of Applying to Oxford. The OUS, the Oxford University Society of Sri Lanka, is a volunteer organization made up of alumni and members who are interested in Oxford. We've been having this session since around the time of COVID, when our past president, Hiran Embaldenia, decided that it would be a good initiative in terms of outreach to current or potential undergraduates as well as potential graduates to learn more about the application process and have a bit of a bridge with uh, those students who are currently at Oxford or who have gone to Oxford. And since then, we've had quite a few sessions. It's been almost an annual discussion that we've been having. And the purpose of this session is to enable prospective applicants to learn more about the university, the admissions process, as well as some other information around that from past students. So today we have with us joining from the University of Oxford, we have both Tom Trower from the undergraduate admissions, as well as Felicity Long from graduate admissions. And we'll begin our session by having the both of them speak about the admissions processes from respective breakout rooms. And then this will be followed by, in the case of the graduate admissions, somebody from the British High Commission, Tanya Maddies, will be speaking about the Chevening Scholarship. And then we'll be having admission or a panel discussion with students who have been through that application process. Then we'll return to the main room where we'll have a closing session and reflections, and then we will wrap up and have the vote of thanks by our current president, Umayanga Nanayakkara. So in terms of general rules for the session, I encourage you to mute your microphones and write down your questions in the chat box while the panelists are speaking. And cameras are allowed. In fact, they're encouraged for the questions. During the Q&A session, we encourage you to raise your hand so that we can have it take place in an orderly fashion. And please remember that all of this discussion will be taking place under Chatham House rules. So with that, Sanjay, is there anything further that you would like to add?
Let me just thank you, Rishan. Thanks for your opening remarks. And thank you everyone for joining in. Let me quickly just share the agenda so that everyone is on the same page. Is my screen visible, Rishan? All good? Yeah. Just to run through the agenda. So we will be breaking out into two breakout rooms. I will make those available via Zoom. And what you need to do is, so there'll be two breakout rooms, namely the graduate admission and undergraduate admission. Once I make it available, you just need to click on join so that you join that particular room. Umayanga Nanayakkara, current president, will join the graduate admission, while myself, Sanjay, as the current vice president, I will join the undergraduate session. And as Rishan mentioned, so we have the presentation by Felicity on the graduate session, and followed by Tanya making a presentation on the Chevening Scholarship. And then parallelly at the undergraduate session, we'll have Tom from Oxford presenting. And then we have the two similar sessions on Oxford alumni, the past students sharing their experiences both in the graduate and undergraduate session. And then we all join the main room for closing remarks. So I think that's the agenda, keeping it very simple.
Just to set the scene a bit, the postgraduate community at Oxford, as those of you who've been there can attest, is very, very diverse, very internationally diverse. So we have students from around 150 universities currently, and at any one time, about half of the students will be master's students and half will be on research courses. A thing that often surprises people when I tell them is that there are more postgraduate students at Oxford than undergraduates, only by a little bit, and that's something that's gradually come on over recent years. But we are now a majority postgraduate institution, so a huge amount of emphasis on the output and experience of graduate students there. What I'm going to spend most of my slot doing is going through the application process. And a bit of a recurring theme is going to be the need for you to do your own research relevant to your own experience when it comes both to the course you want to apply for and the funding available for that as well, because both tend to be very bespoke. If you go on our website today, you will see information relevant to the current year, but very soon, on Monday, the 8th of September, it will tick over to next year's. So in a little over a week, we'll move through to next year's cycle. And then from that point, all the information will be relevant for courses starting about a year from now, so in October 2026. I won't dwell too much on this slide because I would imagine that most of you on the call will already have quite a clear idea of what you want to do, of what course you want to do. So my main message here is to decide on that if you haven't already. You can apply for more than one course at Oxford. There is a cap though, which I'll come to later. But our recommendation is that you apply for just one. We can't make you do that, but certainly we find that people's applications tend to be stronger, tend to be more competitive when they've focused on just the one course that they want to do. Although I realise some of you, if you're thinking of doing a DPhil, that's a PhD doctoral study, you may be weighing up whether or not to do a master's beforehand because sometimes it's required, sometimes it isn't, sometimes it isn't required, but it's very helpful. So we do realise that some people may be applying for courses at different levels, but just be very clear and make the best decision for you. I'll talk now about finding a supervisor. Now, this is not something that you always have to do. You generally don't have to do this for a taught master's course. You don't always have to for a research course, but in general, if you're applying for a DPhil, for doctoral study in a humanities or social sciences program, you will need to contact the supervisor in advance. So these are some tips for how to do that, and we would certainly recommend doing that as soon as possible. Now we're at the end of August if you intend to apply for this year. So to get an idea of who could be appropriate to supervise you, have a look on departmental websites. There will be a profile of each academic there. There will usually be a list of their publications. Often there's a list of previous students they've supervised and the title of their thesis, just to give you some idea of the area they work in. They may be active on social media, so you can have a look there. If you do need to contact anyone, if you directly, then the onus is on you to do that. So if you need to have an agreed supervisor, don't just list them on the application form. Make sure you've spoken to them already. And when you contact them, do be concise and direct. Remember, they're very busy people, so attach your CV and your draft proposal directly. Don't leave them guessing as to what exactly you're asking. Just be very, very clear and direct. And don't be afraid to send a polite follow-up, again, because they're very busy people. But be sensible in doing that. So don't follow up after 2 days. More like 2 or 3 weeks is appropriate. And we would strongly suggest not to bombard people across the department. So to be very focused on just 1 or 2 people who you think may be suitable supervisors for you. And you can see at the bottom there a link for further information on how to contact a supervisor. English language is generally required for applicants from Sri Lanka. The most common system that people apply through is IELTS, so that's what I've put on screen, but we do accept various other providers as well that you can see listed on the bottom. As ever, as with every institution, when you need English language proficiency, you don't need that by the time you apply, but you would just need it by the time you took up your place if you didn't have proof of the relevant level already. So if you were made an offer alongside any academic requirements, they would also ask for proof of English language there. Now on to the nuts and bolts of applying to Oxford specifically. You will see various deadlines listed for Oxford, and they are specific to the course. So even you might think there's a very similar course in the same department, they could well have different deadlines. So make sure you are aware of the ones that apply to you. We recommend very, very strongly to apply in advance. Now, that doesn't give you an advantage in terms of being made an offer. If you apply in 2 weeks' time or 5 minutes before the deadline, we don't give bonus points for applying early. Both have an equal weight, an equal likelihood of being made an offer. But if you apply 4 weeks in advance and your transcript, say something essential, is wrong and there's some reason that we can't accept it, then we will get back to you. So our team, the admissions team, does a pre-sift, we check everything's in order, and we will get back to you and advise if something needs to be changed. If you've applied 4 weeks ahead of the deadline, that leaves plenty of time to organise that. If you apply 5 minutes before the deadline, and many people do, and everything is in order, everything is correct, fine, no problem. We will process it and then it will go through to the department for assessing. However, if you apply 5 minutes before the deadline and something is wrong, nothing we can do. So if your transcript or anything we require is invalid, we simply won't be able to send your application through any further and it will have been wasted. So just to make sure you give yourself the best chance of having everything correct and ready to go, we strongly suggest that you apply at least 2 weeks in advance. The deadlines for your course, as I say, will be announced in just over a week's time. It should be the second week of September. In terms of how to apply, it's very easy. It's all online. Where the deadline exactly is always 12 noon UK time on the day that's specified. And I mentioned earlier that there's a cap on applications, and there is. So if at least one of them is for a research degree, then you can apply for up to 3. If you are only applying for taught master's degree, then you can just apply for 2. So you absolutely can apply for 2 or 3, depending on the combination there. But we do strongly recommend, as I mentioned earlier, to focus on the one application, which is the course that you ideally want to do. Supporting documents will be specified on the website relevant to the course that you're applying to, but they'll generally include these things. So personal statement and potentially a research proposal. If you're not applying to a predefined research project, you will certainly need an official transcript from your institution, and they can take a while to arrange. So do apply for those in advance. And generally speaking, 3 references. Some courses require other things as well, written work or some other form of admissions exercise, and that will be specified. And almost all our courses now request a standardized CV. So that means that you don't upload your own CV. We will ask you to specify your education, your work experience, and so on in a set format. That takes a while to fill in, so allow yourself plenty of time to do that. Personal statement, if you are asked to include one, which you probably will be, is your chance to really pitch yourself to the academics that will be assessing your application. So make that bespoke to you. Your transcript will have top marks, of course, so that it will always already paint a good picture there. But why do you want to do this course? Why do you want to do it at Oxford? Why are you the best and what do you plan to do afterwards? Just set out the story that can't be told in just your transcript and other documents alone. Your research proposal is very important if you have to do one, and that's where you will set out what you would bring to the department in doing your research. How would you build on the existing research in that department? Be clear that what you're proposing is achievable within the time frame. So generally speaking, for a DPhil/PhD, it will be 3 years of research and 1 year of writing up. So make sure it's achievable within that time. References, as I say, you should request these in good time, because if your application doesn't have the required references by the deadline, it may not go forward for assessment. You may have someone in mind that you want to approach, but they may be on sabbatical, they may have moved institution, and it's just polite to give them as much notice as you can that you're going to ask them, and let them know what the deadline is as well. The timeline, in terms of when you'll hear back, this relates back to the deadline. So as I said, we would encourage you to apply as far in advance as the deadline as you can, certainly by at least 2 weeks. But it won't be until 8 to 10 weeks after the deadline that you hear back, because we have to wait and consider every complete application we've received by the deadline before we make final decisions. So please don't ask us for a response just a couple of days after you apply. It will be 8 to 10 weeks after the deadline that you have to wait to hear, and that will be via email that you hear. Colleges, I won't say much on the experience of studying at a college, because that might be something that you want to ask our alumni here this afternoon. But in terms of the admissions process, there's nothing separate for colleges. It's all part and parcel of the same application process. You can select a preferred college, but you don't have to. And every person on a DPhil course or master's course does have a guaranteed college place. Very quick word about funding, but the information on the Chevening Scholarship will be very relevant for most of you on the call this afternoon, so this is only very brief remarks. We do have a number of Oxford scholarships, and if you want to be considered for them, you must apply by the December or January deadline, because in most cases you're considered automatically for them. There are as many different forms of funding as there are students, really, because it depends on your own background and the course you're applying for. So allow yourself time to do the research on that as required. In terms of funding, unfortunately, although we wish we could, we cannot guarantee funding to every student who applies. So do be clear on what the reality would be of self-funding if you had to do that. Work opportunities, of course, will be limited both by your visa conditions and, in any case for everyone, the amount of time that you'll have to do your academic work. So you wouldn't be able to fully support yourself via part-time work. And final slide from me, visa support. So as you would expect, you do need to have a visa in place before you leave for the UK. The university, of course, would sponsor your visa once you've met any offer conditions. Check if you need an ATAS certificate, because that needs to be in place before the visa process happens. Visas for dependents, so for family members, due to UK government restrictions, are generally now only for research students. But for all these questions, our visa and immigration team would be able to help with that. I wouldn't be able to answer questions on those in any detail, but there certainly is a team that would support you through if you do apply. And I will end there and stop sharing my screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Felicity. We will now move on to Tanya on the Chevening Scholarship Program.
Thanks, Umayanga. Hi, everyone. So a little bit of introduction about me. I'm Tanya Medis, and I'm the Communications Manager handling soft power and chevening at the British High Commission in Colombo. So Let me get my slides up. So I'm sure all of you may have heard of cheapening, but I'll give you a quick rundown on what cheapening is and what we are looking for in our scholars. So very briefly, cheapening is the UK government's flagship international scholarship program. It's funded by the FCDO, the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, and partner organizations. So the Chevening Scholarship is for outstanding and emerging leaders from all over the world. They get a chance to pursue a one-year master's degree in the UK. So our scholars get to live and study in the UK, and they develop not just academically, but professionally, and they get to network extensively and experience UK culture. And the most important thing is the Chevening alumni network is very diverse and they work in different fields and they do great things all around the world. So you get to be a part of that. And on completing your studies, though, you will have to leave the UK for a period of 2 years. And the scholarship would cover all university and course-related costs like your tuition fees, your examination fees, and you will get a cheapening stipend depending on where you will be studying. If you are studying in London, you'll get a London stipend, and for everywhere else, you will get a stipend that covers your accommodation and your living and maintenance costs from meals, personal expenses, and also your travel will be covered, arrival, home departure, and also additional travel for any mandatory chevening events like the welcome and the farewells. So a lot of people doesn't know that chevening is not just a master's scholarship. You're just not going to do your master's for 1 year and you come back. No. So chevening is much more than that. So our scholars, they return home with a lot of knowledge, skills, and especially the network that I mentioned before. So many chevening scholars, the impact they're giving to their home country, they're driving growth and prosperity, they're changing education systems, they're creating new jobs, they're innovating, and they're doing a lot of things that the UK is interested in, especially in the fields of the UK is currently interested in, like climate change, climate action, ensuring security and stability, so that sort of thing. So that is why you would want to choose chevening if you are interested and if you have that passion to do that kind of change making and progress. So who can apply? You have to be a citizen of a chevening eligible country. So Sri Lanka is a chevening eligible country. And then you have to commit to returning to your home country for at least 2 years after the scholarship ends, like I said before. And we will talk about this particular criteria in the later slides. You have to have at least 2,800 hours. That's around 2 years of postgraduate work experience. And also you have to hold an undergraduate degree that qualifies you for a UK master's. And finally, you have to apply to 3 different eligible UK university courses, and you must receive at least 1 unconditional offer from all of these 3 universities. So we've just concluded the 2025-26 cycle, and the stats are here. Almost 90,000 eligible applicants applications were received worldwide. Out of that, 5,000 were interviewed, and just over 1,000 scholars were chosen for this cycle, and they will be reaching the UK to start their courses this month and next month. So application timeline and guidance. This is what I spoke about. An update, newly introduced update this year is that the 2-year work experience requirement is now counted only if it is after the date of your graduation. That means your bachelor's degree. So Chevening is looking for future leaders who have that commitment, who will demonstrate that commitment to their field, to the work they do, and who is really passionate about what they are doing and willing to drive progress when they come back home. So that's why experience gained while doing your bachelor's will no longer be eligible. So that means if you graduated after October 2023, you will not be eligible, as there might not have been sufficient time to complete the 2-year requirement. And another update this year is some changes to the application form. The essay questions updated, and now it includes a stronger focus on how your particular course and your university connects to the UK priority areas, which is here, the 4 areas: the growth agenda, climate action, strengthening security and stability, and then development for more inclusive and effective societies. So the essay questions, the word limit is also reduced from 500 to 300 words, because we are really looking to read about the applicants' authentic stories, their lived experiences, their learned experience, and as opposed to getting some generic information generated. So when you're really thinking of applying and filling up your application form, look at how your course and your selected university will connect to the global priority areas, which is very much a priority for the UK. So this is a rough timeline of the application timeline. So applications are already open. It opened on August 5th. And this time we have a very short application period. It used to be 3 months, but now it's 2 months. And the application deadline is on 8th October. So if you are going to apply, I highly recommend that you start as early as possible. Plan it out and then get to your applications way before the deadline if you can. And around October to November, the applications will go through an initial sift, where the reading committee will review them. And in January to February will be where the long list and the short lists will be announced. And in March and April next year, we will have the global interview period, where selected shortlisted candidates will come to the British High Commission for the interviews. And thereafter, conditional selection letters will be sent out in June. And the deadline for the conditionally selected scholars to meet the Chevening fulfill the Chevening requirements, which is to have at least one unconditional offer from their 3 universities of choice, is in July. And by mid-July, any reserve candidates will be upgraded if there are any withdrawals. That also if they have an unconditional offer from a university. And in September, their final award letters will be issued, and the scholars will be arriving in the UK to start their courses in September to October. So what I really want to reiterate here is, since we are already in the application cycle and we have like a month left, if you're really thinking of applying, it's very important that you maybe attend some of the alumni sessions that they're holding. They're going to hold some webinars, they're having some gatherings, some Chevening evenings. So it's important, and it is very helpful if you reach out to these alumni and then get their ideas, talk to them if you need any advice. So the Chevening alumni in Sri Lanka is a very large and diverse network. So we have a lot of notable alumni, from former foreign secretaries to board of investment heads. So our alumni network is very diverse, and they're very close-knit, and they're very active this year. So we have a formal Chevening Alumni Association, which is called CAASL. They have 8 office bearers. They changed annually, and this is the current committee this time. And I've linked their social media. They're doing a lot of work this time, like I said. So this year, the Chevening theme is to engage more alumni in Chevening promotion. So to recommend, the Chevening alumni would recommend or nominate fellow members of their communities in their fields to come and apply. And in She Evening, we very much promote diversity. It doesn't matter where your background is from. We just want you to apply if you think you have what it takes. So this is some of the alumni activities that happened this year. There was a She Evening, and there was a quiz night. I think Rehan was there at the quiz night as well. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff happening. Like I said, if you can join any of these, it'd be great. You'll have a good idea of what She Evening is, how very active the network is, and it's actually a very good opportunity for you if you manage to get an award. So please follow the British High Commission socials on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. We post regularly, we post updates and timelines and all of that. Alternatively, you can check the She Evening website, sheevening.org, and it has a resource hub, and it has anything and everything She Evening related. If you want to do your research from your application to if you're selected to the next steps or whatever, that is a very good starting point for you. So any questions, just let me know. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. That was quite helpful. For everyone that's joined in, please note all the changes that have taken place this year, and please do start the application process as early as you can. Now we will move on to a shared experience with Nimaya, and also we have Rehan here. Do also note that there's a chat here for any questions that actually any of you may have. We will take that in at the end of the session. Now, in terms of breaking out into the experiences, actually Nimaya and Rehan, if you can give possibly a detailed introduction of yourself, basically what you guys did, and what you guys are actually currently doing now.
Should I go ahead? Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Thank you, Mayanga, and thanks, Felicity and Tanya. I'm Nimaya, and I currently work at the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art Sri Lanka as a project curator, and I also work as a temporary lecturer of English literature at the University of Caledonia. And I studied, I did a master's in world literatures in English I graduated last year. So I was in the 2023 to 2024 cohort, and I was at Linacre College, which is a postgraduate only college. Yeah, that's me.
Lovely, thanks, Nimaya. And over to you, Rehan.
Hi everyone. So my name is Rehan. I am actually going to start my postgrad studies in September, so this year. So I come from a background in mental health research. Specifically, most of my work is kind of in a field known as mental health and psychosocial support, which essentially looks at the intersection of how social issues affect people's and communal mental health and well-being. I have been working at the Asia Foundation of Sri Lanka, which is an international non-governmental organization working across Asia. I have also been working with a collision of various mental health and development practitioners at the Institute for Health Policy. I've also worked as a assistant lecturer at Japura, plus also I had kind of my own kind of volunteer organization / initiative that I've been working on. So I come from that kind of background, and then I'll be starting my studies in on my master's in international health and tropical medicine. So yeah, so the idea of kind of so I have been working on mental health, but I'm trying to kind of broaden my horizons in terms of wanting to study like particularly research skills on broader health systems, etc. So yeah, that's a bit about me. I will actually be also going into Lincoln College. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Rehan. Just while you're there, congratulations for actually getting in. That's such wonderful news. Talk us through like the process when you were actually applying. Did you have any help from anywhere? Was it just a curiosity that brought you to apply to Oxford? Why Oxford?
Yeah, so I actually I always had this kind of idea of wanting to study abroad for my postgrad. I think that's something I have been thinking of like since I completed my A levels, which was about 8 years ago or something. But then I just didn't know how. I've just been working on like my portfolio, just trying to do what I do. And it was actually last year was actually one of my grandfathers who forced me to look into Oxford. I had never even thought about Oxford. And then he was like, why not apply to Oxford? And then I just looked into some of the postgrad courses, and I was like, okay, this course really, really fits with the vision I have for myself. And then I went ahead and applied. In terms of preparation, I would say I applied for a couple of universities, including Oxford. So I also applied to King's College London. I also applied to the Shivning Scholarship, and at the same time, I also applied to the Weidenfeld Hoffman Trust Leadership and Scholarship Program, which is the internal scholarship at Oxford. So it was just multiple processes, kind of like that was just parallelly working, I was just working parallel with. So in terms of support, I would say I had my supervisors from work who would basically brainstorm certain concepts, certain ideas, especially with regard to why I want to do certain programs, because I think those arguments, it's important to structure those arguments as to what I'm receiving from a program, etc. So which I think I'll touch on that a bit later.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I did have support from a couple of people, but yeah.
perfect. Thanks, Rehan. We'll actually get to the scholarship part a bit later on. That's covered in my part of the agenda. Nimaya, how was your application process? Did you get any help? If you can just talk us through that.
The application process feels really far away now, actually. So I have to refresh my memory. I think for me, I was working while doing my application, so I think it was a little bit challenging. You kind of realize how much time it actually takes to work on an application. And I think especially for postgraduate studies, something I didn't expect when I started my degree was that day one we had to present our research idea, and we had to present a kind of dissertation topic. And so I think I wish I had known that maybe going into the application process, I would have focused a little bit more on the research that I wanted to do in my application. But I think in terms of help, I found just the university website is so comprehensive.
Yeah.
So I really just kind of studied that a lot.
Absolutely. Great. And now, I mean, in terms of the actual year at Oxford, I mean, how was that? How was your day-to-day life like? Did you get involved in extracurricular activities? And how was that experience?
Yeah, it was a great experience. I think 1 year goes by so fast that you kind of, blink and it's done. But I did. I got involved with a few things. So in terms of my department, the Faculty of English, we had a lot of internal activities happening. So more academic lecture series, workshops, reading groups, and things happening pretty much every day that were academic. But then also the opportunity to kind of participate in organizing conferences. I think there were 2 conferences that I organized and participated in that was student run during my year. So in terms of kind of academic opportunities, there were a lot. Extracurricular activities, it kind of seems to be that a lot of people end up doing a lot of extracurricular activities within their college, and a lot of colleges have so much you can do. I had a little bit of a different experience, which is that I sang for a choir in a different college. So in a way, that was really nice for me to learn that I could participate in things in other colleges too if my college didn't have something that I wanted, because we didn't have a chapel to sing in, and that was a kind of experience, Oxford specific experience that I wanted to have, and that was really lovely because I got to meet people from different places, different parts of Oxford. Yeah,
That's a great takeaway. Thank you so much. I remember during actually my time, I played a lot of soccer and played a lot of badminton about 10 years. But did you join any other unique societies there? And if I remember during my time, there was like a Harry Potter society, etc.
oh my gosh, I don't think I joined any societies that sound as exciting as that. I think my degree was really very intense, and my cohort was very close. So we ended up doing a lot of kind of work-related, course-related activities. So I got involved with some kind of reading groups, like that were organized by other departments as well. So that was also really nice that I got to join like a gender studies reading group, and then also a kind of visual anthropology and museum studies reading group. So I was kind of involved in not necessarily societies per se, but in these activities that are open to everyone that's outside of your field. And I think that was a really nice experience.
Lovely. And life after Oxford. And how are you faring?
Good. Yeah, it's really it's great. I mean, I as I said, the year went by so fast. So it just feels sometimes like a little bit of a dream that happened. But yeah, it's also just been really nice to come back to Sri Lanka and work here and be able to contribute and draw on what I learned.
Lovely. Thanks, Nimaya. Rehan, just in terms of your scholarship application, I heard, I mean, from the initial conversation, you touched base on a phone call that you have received. Just if you can take us through that.
Yeah. So just to kind of note the timeline. So I applied to the Shivling Scholarship first, which was last year, I think October, November, if I'm not mistaken. And then I completed my my university application like early December, submitted it, and then sometime towards sometime towards January, I was called in for the interview by like from department, and then exactly a week later, in January, I was given a unconditional offer by the department. So then again, exactly I think a month or so later, the department kind of had been processing what scholarships I think. So I think as Felicity mentioned that I think they generally consider all applications for internal scholarships, and I think the department has been processing, and then they got back to me, and then they noted, hey, like, we think you might be we think that the Weidenfeld-Hoffmann scholarship program might fit you. What do you think? Do you want to apply? And then I was like, okay, yeah, let me go through it and see. And I thought it was a very interesting program. and then I kind of worked on that application, I think somewhere in like March or something. And then again, there was a written submission followed by an interview. So that was basically the timeline of application, I would say. In terms of the differences, so the university application, I would say, was very different because it focused a lot more on the subject matter. So the mine focused a lot more on the certain issues, health related issues, I would say global health related issues, and the interview focused a lot more on those kinds of concepts. The scholarship though was more heavily focused on, I guess, like leadership, and the Weidenfeld-Hoffmann Scholarship Program specifically looks at these strands of philosophy and entrepreneurship. So they were so parts of the interview was really kind of testing, oh, do I have any ideas in terms of integrating entrepreneurship to some of the things that I will be learning through my course, etc. So it was more along the lines of a conversation that I had with them during the interview. But yeah, so I hope that answers your question. But do you have anything specific you want to know about the
No, I
scholarship?
think
I
that's
just shared the link.
fine. This one. Yep. Thanks for sharing the link. I saw
Yeah,
that.
I just shared the link on the chat if anyone wants to check that out. But yeah.
Absolutely. That's perfect. Thank you so much. I'll just open up the floor for any questions if there is any, in the interest of time. If there are any questions, if you feel free to just post on the chat bot over here. If there is any, there's Tanya and Felicity, who's also still here. Okay, great. We have a question from a member over here. The question is, are exemptions to the English language requirements considered? Felicity, do you want to possibly take that one?
Yes, but I will say please email in for advice on that. Yes, there are various things that are exempt, such as if you had studied in a medium that teaches in English language beforehand. So yes, they would be considered.
Great. We have one more question. That is, let me rephrase that one. In terms of the question over here is, do you need to be kind of rich for applying to Oxford? So essentially, Felicity, do you want to go through any financial?
I'd love to. Thank you very much. Yeah, my main job is actually in access and outreach. So my specific job is hopefully to dispel that myth. So no, we contextualize your application. So we ask some questions of home students and international students as well when they apply, just to understand a bit more about their home context. You heard Tanya's presentation about the amazing scholarships offered by by Chevening, which many of you will be eligible for, and that fully covers your studies here. So no, it's very much not just for wealthy people. I'm just going to post in the chat. Oh, no, it's not working. Bear with me. The main email address for our admissions team. So the person that asked the question about exemptions for English language, this would be the one to contact.
Great. Thank you. There's Yes, if anyone has any questions, please do post on the chat. I think Shaheen, if you have a question, do ask. Feel free to do so.
I've
There-
had a couple of direct messages, so can I read those out?
Yes, absolutely. Please go for it.
Yes. Katina is asking, hi, I'm a 20-year-old first-class graduate and I want to pursue the MPP. I was working while I was studying. Am I eligible? So when you're asking about, and that you're saying, are you eligible because you have more than 2,800 hours of work experience, but not after my undergrad? I think that's more for Tanya actually, because the work experience qualification was stipulation was relevant to Chevening, I think. So the question is whether 2,800 hours of work experience makes them eligible, but they're not all achieved since graduation.
The update this year says that the 2,800 hour work requirement has to be from the date you graduated. So nothing before that is considered. It has to be counted from the date of your graduation. Also, just on Chevening, I also had the one question asked, is there an application fee for Chevening? No, there is no application fee. And another, the Chevening is only for a 1-year taught master's degree. So not for the doctorates and not for bachelors. Thank you.
I've had another direct message as well from Janeth, who has completed their BSc at Edge Hill University in the UK. So yes, my understanding is that you wouldn't need to complete an IELTS or any other qualification because you've got your undergraduate degree here in the UK. In any case, for English language, if you're not sure, you don't need that by the time you apply. So no one would ever not be made an offer because they didn't meet the relevant English language qualifications. They would just make a conditional offer asking for you to get the relevant English language qualifications. I've got another direct message. Everyone, if you don't mind just typing it for everyone, and then we can just all
Yeah.
see. So someone has said, will I be able to do a master's degree in Oxford after finishing my BSc degree in applied sciences at a university in Sri Lanka? It's up to the department, but usually yes. If you've done a full undergraduate degree, then you would be able to go to a master's in Oxford.
Felicity, are there any other questions? I've got two over here. Are there full stop?
No more for me, no, so go ahead.
Great. There's a question from Francis here. It's linked to what we actually initially discussed on the scholarships available. I think we have already covered that. There's a question on what is expectation in discussing your research in the personal statement. How extensive should it be? By Shaheen.
I suppose it depends. I assume from the ways the question is phrased that you're applying for a research program. So usually in that case, you'd be asked to do a research proposal that is separate. And then the personal statement should be much more focused on your experience.
There's a question from Ilan Kumaran. What would be the reasons that the other applications get rejected for MSc courses?
I mean, that's a very, very broad question. By and large, Oxford receives it's roughly about 5 applications for every place. So they're all of a very high standard, but you're not defending thousands of people. There are some courses that are extremely competitive and a very, very high number of applications. So that's an average. Top grades are essential. We would look in your personal statement and more in your references to contextualize that. So make sure you pick your referee very carefully, someone who knows you. And if your referee, if they're just saying, you know, they were a good student, that doesn't show much. But if they say they're the best in their cohort, great. If they say you're one of the best they've ever taught in their career, that really makes you stand out. So I'd say make sure you meet the minimum requirements for that program. Make sure that you have a very, very strong reference, and just put across your passion and reason for applying with it. That's the only general advice I can give there. I'm having 3 more direct messages. Do you want to go to some, Rehan, or shall I go through those?
No, please feel free to go through them. Rehan, do you
Yeah.
want something?
No, I'm really sorry. Just wanted to add one more thing, if that's okay.
Please do. Yes, please do.
Yes, but I think it's also based on some of the conversations that I had, it's also how much of a fit the candidate is for the course. Because I think, by the end of the day, the department, the lecturers, the faculty rather, knows what they're offering. They know what they're also looking for. So often I realize that there needs to go we need to reflect a lot on the fact that, is this program for me, or does it make sense for me to go for this program? So sometimes if you don't make it through the process, it might also be the fact that this program was not really meant for me. So might also be good to ask yourself some questions along those lines.
Great, thanks, Rehan. We have another question here before I hand it over to you, Felicity. Is it mandatory to have the 2,800 hours of working experiences for MSc courses?
I think that's a question for Tanya, because I think the work experience thing is just to do with cheating.
Yes, so regardless of your degree, the work experience, 2 years, 2,800 hours is mandatory. Yes.
Perfect. Thanks, Tanya.
Also, sorry, just it can be it can be paid, unpaid internships, volunteering, also full-time, part-time, it can be anything. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. We have another, I guess, 3 minutes remaining for any Q&A. Felicity, do you have any direct Q&A?
I do, yes. So working through them in order from Sanal. Should a candidate interested in a DPhil start with researching into work of the supervising professor or the college and the program? I would definitely say the supervising professor. I always say this, you know, I can tell you Oxford's a good place to study because frankly, that's what I'm paid to do. It is only the right place to study if we have someone that could supervise you. So absolutely, it depends on finding the right fit of supervisor for you, which may or may not be at Oxford. So absolutely, that's the only reason that you're going to come here for a DPhil. Next from Anjali saying, I graduated with a first-class degree from a private university in Sri Lanka. The degree is 3 years and is awarded by a university in the UK. Am I eligible for applying for an MSc at Oxford? So I presume that's the degree awarding powers are delegated to the UK. Yes, if you had a degree certificate from a UK university, regardless of where it was studied, you would be eligible to apply for an MSc. Then from Thistle, and you're mentioning ChatGPT, so I'm already going to say, don't ask ChatGPT anything. Well, maybe something, not about admissions. So the question is about Russell Group universities or non-Russell Group. So for those who don't know, UK universities at a Russell Group are research-intensive institutions. No, we welcome applications from all universities, and we do get people coming to Oxford from non-Russell Group universities. So it's not a requirement that you have a degree from a Russell Group institution. Shahane is saying the question on describing the extensiveness of research in your personal statement was for a taught masters. Oh, okay. So research experience wouldn't be as relevant for a taught masters. And that's all I've got by way of direct messages, in case anyone else has some.
I got a question, but I'm not sure I understand the question. So if the person who sent it could rephrase, are there any foreign lecturers that you know? Can we have that during our undergraduate years? I'm not sure I understand the question. So maybe if it could be rephrased, that would be really helpful.
We have a question.
Or someone else wanted to answer.
Yeah. We have a question here from actually Anuttara, maybe Tanya. This is actually directed at you. On this evening, I completed my first undergraduate degree in 2021 and the second one in 2023. I worked after completing my first. Can I please know if those hours be calculated or not?
Yes, I think yes. If your work experience after a bachelor's degree, then yes.
Okay, perfect.
First bachelor's.
Thank you. I think we'll have to wrap it up and join the main plenary in the interest of time. Nimaya, is there any feedback from whoever asked you that question?
No.
Great. Perfect. So then thank you so much for actually joining in. Let's revert.
Essentially, here we go. Progress towards the end, obviously. If you have any questions at any point that you want to ask, we can take those at the end, as well as obviously you can raise your hand. But if you have anything you want to write down, please do write it down, and I'll try and answer it through the session when the two alumni are speaking, because a lot of the time, the answers that I will be giving are based on our university's web pages. On the whole, and so I'll be able to give you a direct link to the question you're asking, I hope. So please do put any in the chat. I'll try and answer those as we go along, and then obviously we've got verbal answers at the end. Sanjay, are you happy for me to begin?
Yeah, Tom, let me quickly introduce you to everyone here. So Tom Trower is from the undergraduate admissions from the University of Oxford. So he's been responsible, I think, for undergraduate recruitment in the Americas, Australia, and New Zealand, Tom. And then I think you studied at Loughborough University before you moved to Zambia after graduating to work for an NGO in the country's Western Province. So before joining Oxford's undergraduate admissions and outreach department, Tom worked as an outreach officer at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia, and then at City, University of London. So you bring a wealth of international and admissions experience to the team. So thanks, Tom, for being here. Over to you, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you. Gosh, you know me better than I know myself. That's great. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll crack on because I know that time is relatively short, and I think, as always with these sessions, it's always much better to hear from students who went to Oxford and then take as many questions as possible. So the first series of slides I have are going to be an overview, really, of the University of Oxford itself. But I think what would be useful is to go through the application process and maybe go through admissions information, advice and guidance. The reason why I can go quickly on this slide is that I think if you're all here, you've all heard of the University of Oxford and realised that it is a fantastic institution. If you care about rankings, we have been ranked #1 in the world consecutively for 9 years in the Times Higher Education World Rankings. Other world rankings are available, but it essentially just backs up the fact that we are this fantastic institution for really high level academic learning. And what comes with that as well is the types of learning that take place here, as well as the research that takes place here too. We're a really high intensive research institution, and that means staff, students and graduates. I won't talk anything about postgraduate because my colleague Felicity will be doing that, but real world problems get solved from a potentially undergraduate level, doing a master's as well. Lots of stuff goes on here, which is great. More importantly, not for undergraduates, but for University of Oxford and course choice, studying what you love is what we're looking for. We really just look at interest in course, academic ability in that course, and academic potential in that course. And that really comes about by choosing something that you love. And choosing something that you love usually will help you get through the really quite intensive, very short terms that students have at undergraduate level when they're here. Again, the alumni could potentially talk on that and how they coped with it and how they managed their time around it, because that's really, really important. But fundamentally, you need to make sure that you are fully on board with the course choice, and that usually comes alongside doing something that you love, which kind of just makes sense. With Oxford, though, the application process is slightly different to most other UK universities, apart from Cambridge. And you can only apply to Oxford or Cambridge in the same application cycle. You can't do both. And also, you may be able to apply to other courses within one university, but with us and Cambridge, you can only apply to one course at Oxford or Cambridge in this instance as well. So again, just backing up, I'm going to be saying this a lot. Course choice, incredibly important with this process, because the application process that we actually ask you to go through, which I'll explain shortly, is all about us finding out why you want to study that course and how good you are at it. The UCAS application process opens soon. That'll be early September, which is not too far away. And the deadline is the 15th of October, 6 p.m. UK time. I would not be submitting applications yourselves close to that deadline, because an academic reference and predicted grades need to be supplied as part of that application too. So my assumption here would be your schools should have a timeline for you to make sure that you've done your UCAS application and personal statement in time for them to be able to add their own bits to that application and then submit it before the deadline. It's really, really important that that's not being done last minute, essentially. And this is the timeline for the application process itself. Step one, very obvious, really, really important, is to choose a course. And again, only one. And that course choice will determine what you need to do as part of the application process. Step two, that doesn't change. There are two options you can make, which is to choose a college or do an open application. There is no advantage or disadvantage to either route here. One of them just means you prefer that this college processes your application, and that's what that means. If it's an open application, it comes to actually one of my colleagues, their departments centrally. It will stay with us for a couple of days, and it will ping out to a college that has the capacity to process your application and obviously do the course that you're wanting to do. There is no advantage or disadvantage to either route. However, again, our alumni, it'd be interesting to find out if they made a college preference or did an open application as well. Just as a further stat, about a third of students who do make a college preference, so that goes directly to that college admissions team, about a third of those students get an offer from a different college anyway. So even if you put a college down, it does not mean that is the college that you will go to. Next up is the UCAS application itself. So this will be all of your academic records, so any standardized tests that you've taken or will be going to take. Nearly every student that applies to Oxford will be applying in their penultimate year, which means they may not have completed or probably haven't completed their school leaving qualifications yet. Again, lots of other bits and pieces of personal information that all goes into that application, as well as the academic reference and predicted grades that your school will confirm. And as mentioned, the deadline is the 15th of October, 6 p.m. British summertime, so UK summertime, because our clocks do change at times, but that's BST. Then again, depending on the course that you've chosen, there are admissions tests. Now, currently the registration window is open, and that closes on the 26th of September, again, 6 p.m. BST. And the tests themselves will take place on a date, I think it's the third week of October. So depending on the course you're choosing and the test you need to take, there will be specific days, I think in the third week of October at least, that you will need to take that one test. Again, depending on course, written work may need to be provided. That's the 10th of November, and this is work that's already done. Then we have interviews. These are all online. They take place via Teams. And again, the date is undecided yet, but there will be a calendar of when those interviews take place. They are in the first 2 weeks of December normally, and you find out if you're shortlisted by the end of November. So it's a really short period of turnaround. Decisions will come out usually in the second week of January, and then if an offer is given, the offer will be conditional on your grades, and then obviously the results of that offer will be after you receive your final grades. For UK students, the vast majority of students that get offers, this is going to be July. It's the same with American students with APs, but that's usually around the time that we'd expect offers to be met. When we're talking about course choice, though, and this is where I can break down that timeline further, again, I'm going to keep saying it, it is the most important decision really for any university, but for Oxford even more so, because 3 years of your time will be spent, if not more, depending if you're doing a STEM subject, because that has an integrated master's. This is immersed in that course, and it's not like the American system where you get to choose a whole different breadth of subjects or areas or modules. You choose the course itself, and then you will be able to see the structure of that course on our university's web pages, and you'll see what you'll be doing in years 1, 2, 3, potentially 4, or even 5 and 6 if you choose to do medicine. We have about 33 undergraduate courses to choose from, so it's really worth looking at them, because some of them will be courses that you take at school, chemistry, biology, mathematics. Others will be ones that maybe you are not able to take at school. PPE is a good example there, which is incredibly popular as well. So this is just to show you over the past 5 years worth of application cycles, the top 5 courses are PPE, that's politics, philosophy, politics, and economics, medicine, mathematics, law, and economics and management. So PPE and economics and management, and potentially law, 3 degree courses that don't necessarily exist at secondary school level or high school level. So there's an opportunity here to really have a look around at those course choices. Just a further note, as international students, so we do not have any caps on international students in our degrees, apart from medicine. Medicine, as you can see, second most popular course choice already. So very, very competitive. For international students, it is more competitive because the UK government, and this is current and previous governments, put a cap on the amount of international students that we can take on for our medicine courses, and that's every UK university. That is a 7% cap of our cohort can be international students, which means that we can take on 13 students. That's 13 students a year. And I will say that previously, over the past 5 years at least, we have not met that cap of 13 students. So we usually take on about maybe 6, 7, or 8 students each year internationally. So what is already a competitive course to choose is a hyper-competitive course for international students. But that should not dissuade you. If you want to really study medicine because it's what you want to do, then please do, because we do take on some international students. It's just that we are not only allowed to take on a certain amount. Every other course, there is no cap. So please do bear that in mind. Also worth talking about is the entrance requirements. And I'll talk here about school leaving qualifications, and then I'll also talk about English language requirements. Now, obviously, I'm unable to know exactly what you are taking as your school leaving qualifications, but I do have the 3 most popular choices for international students, as well as the Sri Lankan specific. So you can see here that the vast majority of applications we get are going to be A-level students because we are based in the UK. And we have 3 bandings, which is 3 A's, an A star and 2 A's, or 2 A stars and an A, which is the highest band. IB has that banding as well, so 38, 39, 40, and then specific scores in higher level subjects. APs, which is the advanced placement tests, which is the college board, so US qualifications, is 4 APs at grade 5. And then for Sri Lanka, it's pretty straightforward. We just have advanced level with A. Now, some courses do have subject requirements. We have a traffic light system. We have green amber and red. So again, worth looking at the course pages. And again, this is why course choice is so important, because if there is a green dot, that is helpful. This means that studying this course in your school leaving qualifications is helpful for the course if you get an offer to study here. Amber means recommended. So this means that the course you're going to be taking is more than likely, will have this type of subject or subject content in it. So mathematics or taking calculus is usually one that is recommended or highly recommended for something like computer science. So it's not essential, but it's highly recommended. And then the red dot, if there is a red dot, that means that students must be taking these subjects in their school leaving qualifications. And it may be one subject, it may be two subjects, it may be a certain amount of subjects, and it may be that you need to get an A star or a 7 or a particular grade in that subject. As I said, for Sri Lanka, it's a bit more open. It's just advanced level with AAA, but just make sure that if there is a red dot on your course choice, please make sure that you are taking that subject in your school leaving qualifications, because if you are not taking that subject and it is an essential subject to study that in the degree, then you will not be able to meet the offer, essentially, because you're not studying the subject. So that's why, again, course choice, incredibly important. Following on from that, English language requirements. Now, you can see there is a web page here for this further information. It is ox.ac.uk/Englang, so English language, ENG, LANG. But the two main routes that students go is either through IELTS or the TOEFL. And you can see here that we need a score of 7.0 or 7.5, depending on the course you choose. Usually, STEM subjects may have that lower banding, whereas something like history or English or law may have the higher banding. So again, it's worth having a look on the admission requirements specific to your course, and then 110. But we do have lots of other different types of English language qualifications that we accept. So have a look at that webpage and see if you've taken one already or need to take one. There is a caveat where you can ask for mitigated or special circumstances to not provide English language requirements, and that's usually if you have been taught in English for 2 or 3 years in full-time education. That is for the college's discretion, though. So it is a university policy, but it's the college to say, yep, we have a form, you can fill in this form to say I have been learning in English at this school or wherever it is, and they will make the decision on whether or not you need to provide English language requirements or not. This is not needed as part of the initial application. So you don't need it until after you have been given an offer, so January. And that means you have from January until July, essentially, to be able to take this test and provide it. It's not needed initially. Just a couple of other bits and pieces, because I've got just over 5 minutes left. This is great. So the UCAS application, as I talked about in the timeline, this is where you provide your standardized test scores, any predicted grades, but also, more importantly, the thing that you're maybe used to or have heard before, this is where your personal statement it is written. Now, the personal statement looks different from previous years. That shouldn't matter unless you've applied before. But previously, it was 1 box of prose, 4,000 characters. Now it is 3 boxes where a question is asked for each box, and each box needs 350 characters minimum. So you have to write something in each box, and essentially what that boils down to is, why do you want to study the subject? What have you been doing to show your interest or ability to do the subject? And essentially anything else you need to tell us. The advice here stays the same. We want to know why you want to study that course and the things that you have done to show interest in that course, which is something we call supercurricular activities, not extracurricular. We've mentioned here that 20% of that personal statement can be extracurricular. It could be 100% academic. That's great, because it lets us know why you want to study this subject and what you've done. Supercurriculars could be, and this may be something our alumni could talk about, reading a book, watching a TED talk, doing research outside of your normal schooling. It is anything outside of normal schooling that is related to the subject and therefore supercurricular. To be blunt, we do not look at extracurricular in forming an offer. So if you've been school captain or sports or chess, these are all great things, by the way, but they do not come into our consideration when doing an offer. But yeah, have a look at the UCAS web pages on personal statements. It gives you a good outline of what to expect, but we just want you to tell us why you want to study that subject. There's no one particular box that if you put more in box 1 rather than box 2, that means you're going to do better. That's not the case. Just tell us why you want to study the subject and give us evidence of it. Not by listing, but talking around why. With regards to what we look for, this comes back to 3 things that I've mentioned already, which is interest in the subject, academic ability, and academic potential. So those are the 3 main things we're looking at, and they all come down to, again, academia. So how good you are at the subject that you're interested in. And when we talked about supercurricular activities, this is where you can evidence what you have done to show that you have gone beyond schoolwork, and how much interest you have in that subject and your knowledge on it. The potential bit comes into it with regards to this and the interviews. So the admissions tests are there to allow us to get all of the applicants that we get each year. So we get around 23 to 24,000 applications each year for all 33 different subjects. We only have about 3,250 spaces. All of those applicants have, a big chunk of those are going to be from the UK, but also about 7,000 or 8,000 normally are international students. And they all, as we've seen, have very different school leaving qualifications. So if a course has an admissions test, it allows us to look at those good candidates, give them the same test on the same day, or maybe 2 days essentially. So the same cohort, so we can see the good applicants all the way across to the outstanding applicants. And it allows us to see academic ability, and some of the admissions tests allow us to do academic potential. But that means that we can look at their UCAS application, the academic reference, their predicted grades, an admissions test, and start to build up a picture of what that student looks like academically, interest in the course from the personal statement, academic ability from the admissions test and predicted grades, and then academic potential in the interviews, which I'll get onto next. I did mention the deadlines earlier, but just remind students that if you choose a course that needs an admissions test, make sure you register as soon as possible if you haven't done so already, and make sure you book in a slot if you have not done so either, because the deadline is soon, and spots essentially a first come, first serve. But the interviews, lots of myths about these, and again, our alumni should be able to talk about them much better than I will be able to, but we are looking here for academic ability and potential. When we say potential, we mean potential for the student, you, the applicant, to be able to learn in the environment that we have at Oxford. We still have lectures and seminars, but we have tutorials, and these are really small group teaching. So a tutor who's an expert on the topic, maybe 1, 2, or potentially 3 students, but no more. The interview's slightly flipped, so it'll be 1 student, you, the applicant, and 2, at least 2 you'd expect, tutors to talk about the subject in hand. But we're looking to see if you're able to operate in that tutorial system, and that's what the interview is. It is a tutorial, and it allows us to check your academic ability by talking about the subject, but we can see if you fit into that style of teaching. So interest in subject, academic ability, academic potential, and then self-motivation, being able to articulate thoughts independently, being given new ideas and taking them on. These are all ways that is what the interview is for, and it allows us to build up that academic picture of you again in the application process, and then we can get on to giving you an offer or not, essentially. My final slide before I hand across, which is where we can help you prepare. So obviously work hard, go beyond the schoolwork, do those super curricular activities, look at our online web pages because they are really useful. If you need to do an admissions test, practice for them. There are past papers online on the course pages. There is lots of online content for interviews. YouTube, Matt Williams at Jesus College does some fantastic videos online for YouTube and interviews, but also attend our webinars. So the international team that I'm a part of, we provide monthly webinars to students, and we will be doing them on admissions tests and interviews over the next couple of months. That QR code is to join our mailing list, where we do our webinars, and we send out the registration links monthly as well, because these are webinars that are really useful, provide information, advice, and guidance to students making applications. More importantly, we know that students who have come to our sessions generally, they have a higher rate of being shortlisted for interview, and they actually have a higher offer rate as well when it gets to being given a chance to actually study here. So please do that QR code, and I will pass over back to our alumni. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thanks so much, Tom. That was very insightful. Maybe before we go into Q&A, maybe Shatuki, yourself, and Uttara, maybe you can just give an introduction as to who you are, what you studied, what your research is on. And then maybe we can go into Q&A. And during the Q&A, I would ask all the participants to, when you can either use the chat or you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. Please let us know who you're directing the question towards, whether it's Tom or Nuttara or Shatuki. Maybe Shatuki can go first. Nuttara, you can follow. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Shatuki, and I actually matriculated. So I started at Oxford in 2020. So it's been a bit of a while, but I did I did my undergraduate studies in biology. So I graduated last year with my integrated master's, and now I'm doing a PhD at the University of Sydney. So yeah, I think starting off in Oxford really kind of made me love biology even more, hence why I've kind of stuck to academia. And my research for my integrated master's, I actually got to come back to Sri Lanka and do a study on shark and ray meat, so the meat trade. So actually, Oxford, the integrated master's was a really good opportunity to do research about what I really wanted to, yeah, pursue. And then now I'm looking at coral reef resilience all around the world with my PhD. So yeah.
Thank you, Shatuki. Nuttara, over to you.
Yeah, hello, I'm Nuthara. I'm a current student at Oxford. I'm going into my fourth year of an integrated master's studying computer science. So I started in 2022 and I'm graduating next year with the master's. As for research, I've done an undergraduate project, which is like researching low-level computer processes. So I was looking at the design of the Apollo guidance computer that guided the first moon landing. And I've also got a project lined up for this year, which is in cybersecurity, so satellite fingerprinting. And I really like both of these projects, so I'm really glad I got the chance to do both of them.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Maybe Shatuki, Nuttara, you can just talk a little bit on your interview experience, maybe as Tom was mentioned. Maybe how was it for you personally? How did you face it? Maybe that would be also helpful. And then we can go into Q&A. Maybe Nuttara, you can start things off.
Sure. So I went into my interview quite nervous, and I came out of it thinking I failed that. I really, really failed that because I thought I did badly. But as it turned out, I didn't. So the interview was basically just a math problem. For computer science interviews, it's usually a math or logic problem. So it was a couple of math problems that I worked through with the tutors. So like it was much nicer than I was like thinking because we just did it together and they would always like give me hints and guide me through it. So I definitely enjoyed it, I think. And it was a surprise to find that I did actually do it well and I got an offer.
Thanks, Nuttara. Shatuki? I think you're on mute. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I had two interviews, and my first interview was at New College, so which is the college I applied for, but I actually ended up getting pulled. So as Tom was mentioning, yeah, you could apply for one college, but then ended up at another one. So my second interview was at Jesus College. So yeah, my first one was interesting. I got shown several graphs on a study on a herd of like lions, and essentially trying to figure out the population of females, and then kind of working with the tutors to try and understand the dynamics of why, also about group living. So why do lions like live in groups, and then try and analyzing it from the graph, and then actually thinking about the wider implications of that. So like, hunting. And so they would ask me like, okay, what do you think the benefits of living in a herd are? And then kind of guide me to the answer. So yeah, thinking about, okay, that is better for hunting, and also like social behaviors and things like that. The graph itself was very tricky. I didn't actually end up like getting to the final answer, but yeah, the tutors were very encouraging, again, like giving me little hints. And it's not like a meant to be kind of like a trap at all. It's really just meant to guide you. And then I would encourage people to like, I try to really to think about my, like, not really keep my thoughts in my head, but like actually say my thoughts out loud. And then the second one went a lot better, which was at Jesus College. And again, it was about a lot of like graph analysis and it was actually describing an experiment. And then I had to try and think about what the variables of the experiment were and why it was about mosquitoes. And then it was about like how mosquitoes use CO2 and warmth to find their prey. So yeah, very biology-esque things, but it started off with just looking at a graph and then coming to like why the scientists did it the certain way. And then yeah, so kind of like it's almost, yeah, even if you don't get to the answer, they're really thinking about whether you would work well in a tutorial system. So like Tom explained, that's a lot of the teaching at Oxford. So they just want to see whether you're a good fit. So it's normal too. I was very scared as well, but just going into it, I know this is harder, so easier said than done, but thinking about it, you're just having an academic discussion with someone, an expert in their field, but maybe put that in the back of your head a little bit. But yeah, that was how mine went. And I ended up at Jesus, not a new college, which I ended up loving. So
Thank you so much, Shatuki. Thank you, Nudra. Thanks, Tom. Let's maybe open it up for questions. If you want, you can use the chat or you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. I think there's one question. Oh, it's a very specific one. It says, "Hi, I'm very interested in pursuing in quantum computing. What undergraduate course would you suggest that you would be helpful in researching on quantum computing?" Maybe Nudra, this might be towards you.
Yes. So at the undergrad level, I've come across about 2 courses that are related to like quantum computing and quantum calculations. So there's third year. I think you may also take it in second year. It's an optional course called Quantum Information. So I didn't take it, but I do know some people who did. It's very mathematical, and I think that would be a part of what you're looking for. I believe there is also a master's fourth year course relating to this, but if you want to specialize in quantum computing, that may not be at the undergrad level. And of course, these courses are there now. They won't necessarily be there by the time you get to second or third year.
Thanks, Nudra. Tom, any general advice that maybe you can provide?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? Because I guess that's a postgraduate question on a specific course. But I mean, in theory, this is where Felicity may be able to help on the other side of things. But for most postgraduate courses at Oxford, they're looking for like a really high scoring undergraduate degree. The obvious ones that come to mind will be computer science, as Nathora just talked about, but also mathematics and statistics. There's mathematics and computer science, maybe not so much engineering, but yeah, certainly those undergraduate levels. But as I mentioned, and I'm sure these two will be able to confirm for me, is that if you're having to do an undergraduate course first, you want to make sure you want to be doing that one. And that's the course you want to do. So that's the most important decision. Postgraduate stuff is great to be thinking about, and obviously being able to link the two together. But getting that undergraduate course first is key, because if you don't like that, then it's going to make getting the postgraduate course even more difficult.
Thank you, Tom. I think Abdullah, you have a question. You raised your hand, and yeah, maybe you can go ahead.
Hi, yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so this is just generally targeted. So what qualities did you see in fellow students who seem to thrive the most at Oxford?
Shatuki, Nudra, you want to have a go at this?
Yeah, I can start off. Yeah, I think generally what I really kind of saw in fellow students was, I think generally just like the passion for what they're doing. And I think it comes with reiterating Tom's point about like just really think about whether you want to pursue the subject that you're applying for and not, especially coming from a Sri Lankan family, it's very easy to like have the pressure from what your parents want to do. For example, my mom wanted me to do medicine, but I knew that I didn't want to do anything with chemistry, hence me doing biology. So, and I think that really made a difference because, like, again, with my super curriculars as well, like, going through the application process and being like, this is what I've done, these are the books I've read out of my own love for what I wanted to do, which was biology, is kind of helped me get there as well. And it can get really tough sometimes. Like, it is a very academically rigorous place, and yeah, the workload is, relatively high, and you're expected to deliver it at a good quality. So even when times are tough, I think, yeah, you can really see people's resilience because they really enjoyed what they were doing. And I think a little bit of it also, I think it's hard when you come in, a bit of like confidence in your abilities as well. And I definitely didn't have that much starting off, but that's again something that you kind of build as you go on. Like, especially in the beginning of tutorials, I found that certain people tended to speak out with more of their ideas than others did. But one thing that was beneficial for me was in my second year and third year, I get to pick my tutorials and tutorial partners. So I actually ended up doing one-on-one tutorials with professors because I could. And that was cool. But yeah, I think main point being just make sure you really want to do what you apply to do.
Yeah, that's also my answer. I think like of my friends, the ones who like really, really love their subject, you can tell. And like it's the perfect place for them to be, and they do really well. And of course, you have to like be able to keep up with the work, because it is really difficult. But yeah, if you like what you're doing, then yeah.
Thanks, Nutra. Thanks, Shatuki. Tom, anything to add in?
No, I can't articulate better than Shatuki has. However, I can pick up on what Shatuki mentioned about parents. And I think it's really important to mention this. I am not here to say do not listen to your parents. Obviously, every culture is going to be slightly different with regards to how that relationship, the familial relationships work. However, just to keep banging the same drum here, there needs to be a bit of communication both ways, because and Shatuki gave us the perfect example there about parents wanting her to do medicine but wanting to do biology, two very different subjects, which needs two very different, I guess, profiles or pathways in getting into Oxford, and what we expect students to have done. And I see this a lot. We see students where their parents want them to go into medicine or want them to go into accounting, but they don't like maths, and so it can cause issues, and it will make the application process incredibly difficult. So make sure you're having those conversations with parents or supporters or guardians to make sure that you can come to an agreement in some cases, or at least an understanding about why you want to do that. And appreciate that you're going to need to be able to prove it in the application process. As an aside, we do session webinars for parents as well, for parents and also parents and their children, so we can say this to them as well, which is also really powerful to be able to provide that support if students need it. So yeah, the support is there from us to talk to parents.
Thank you.
I see. Thank you.
Thanks, Abdullah. Abir, you have your hand up. Maybe you can go next, and then I'll just, yeah.
Yes, I have a question about distributing time for preparation whilst, also balancing school. So how would you advise dedicating time into the entry test and then potentially also the interview, as I understand that waiting to be shortlisted does not give us enough time to prepare well for the interview. So how would you advise that preparation?
Maybe Tom, if you can.
Yeah, for definite. I can give an overview here, but again, the perfect people to talk about it, the people that went through it. So from a university's perspective, we're not going to say to you, you should be revising for the admissions tests for years in advance. What we do have is the materials to prepare. So Abir, it depends on which course you're choosing, because I guess with Shatuki you didn't have a biology admissions test, whereas Nathora would have done for computer science. So course choice again helps with that, or not, depending on which one you're choosing. But if you do have to take an admissions test, we have past papers. On the course pages, there will be preparation materials, there will be past papers, there will be mark schemes, there will be a live portal, which is a mirror image of what it will be in the Pearson test centres for this time around. So if I'm thinking out loud about what you could do, you'd be looking at the syllabus, because the admissions tests have syllabuses, which are syllabi, that the content is taken from, and you'll be able to see alongside what you're doing at school and what's on the admissions test, and see for any black spots initially. So go, okay, my school are not going to teach me this. So you could be looking at that at the start of the year, or now, or probably too late if you're applying for this. Not too late, but if you're applying next year, you've got more time. But you can see where there's any knowledge black spots initially and brush up on those areas because of the syllabus that they'll be based on. And then if we're thinking about that, the actual live test that you could take, I'd be doing that probably the week before the admissions test that you're going to be taking, because that's going to be really fresh and give you a good opportunity to take it that one time before you're doing it proper. And then in between those two dates, you've got paper-based tests that you could do. For the interviews, you're right, you don't get much time between, and we'll be able to find out from our two students what the time span was from knowing they were shortlisted to doing the interview. But before that, essentially, it's just getting used to, I think Shatuki mentioned this, speaking out loud, and whether that is to a mirror, to a plant, to somebody else, to a student, to alumni, if they're available. You should be doing that again as part of the application process timeline, just because you need to get used to essentially doing this, having a conversation over a video call, because that is what it's going to be like when it gets around to it. I'll hand over to our alumni.
Shatuki, Nutara, anything to add to what Tom said? Thanks, Tom. Anything?
Since I did have an admissions test, I'll go first. So for the admissions test, I looked at the past papers mainly. I didn't revise for that long before the test, I think at most a few months, because the past papers were all available, so that was really helpful. The computer science admissions test is math, and the math was already mostly covered in the A-level syllabus. So it was more like getting used to the style of question and getting used to thinking that way rather than studying a lot of content. So that was nice. It didn't take me away from A-level studies too much. And as for the interviews, I don't remember the exact timeline, but I think there couldn't have been more than 2 weeks from like the invitation email to the actual interviews. And yeah, I think I mostly spent it like doing practice sums and like practicing speaking my thoughts out loud, because I do tend to not say what I'm thinking, and that's not a good habit for an interview, because even if you're stuck, you just have to tell them what you're thinking and they will help you out. But yeah, I don't think the preparation process should take up like too much of your time that you should be spending on A-level, which has a lot more content.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tom and Nutara put it very well, but I think also just what I did was really being quite transparent with my teachers that, I have like this really important interview coming up, like cut me a little bit of slack, essentially. But my biology teachers were also very, very helpful, especially one of them. I was like, could I think I printed off the questions myself, or they just looked up some example questions, and I was like, can you just ask me these questions and I'll just tell you what I think and practice it in my head. So if you don't have, I did not have any access to any alumni, or I didn't really know anyone who'd been to Oxford before, but actually just the resources, what I had was my biology teacher. So actually just talking to them and yeah, again, speaking the thoughts out loud was really helpful. So yeah, that's what I did.
Thanks, Shatuki, Tom, Nutara. Abir, I hope the question was answered. There are a few, I know there are a couple of hands up as well, but there's a question in the chat as well. Maybe I'll just go for that first. So this person says, so one person says, I got 2 Cs and an S in A-level. Can I enter? I think Tom had already answered the requirement. You need 3 years if it's Sri Lankan A-levels, if you're doing A-levels in Sri Lanka. And the other requirements were also mentioned by Tom. Then there's a question, I'm interested in BSc in psychology. What is the basic requirement for psychology? Is that A-level in Sri Lanka? I'm already studying under Cardiff Metropolitan University. I'm not very sure whether the 3 of you can answer this.
I I should be able to. So that's somebody who wants to take psychology at undergraduate at Oxford, but is currently doing their first degree at, was it Cardiff, did you say? Yeah, so we don't allow transfers. So students are not able to take a undergraduate degree somewhere else and then transfer in and start in second or third year. For an undergraduate degree, if anybody applies to us, then they have to apply as a new first year student. However, then admission requirements are a bit different. If that degree is completed, then that degree could be used to gain admission and meet admission requirements. There's a bit of nuance around there. If the degree is not completed, then we go back to the entrance requirements needed. So I think psychology is A star AA or 39. IB score was 766 in high levels, and it's recommended that students have done mathematics essentially. So there's a bit of bits and pieces in there, but transfers don't happen, and you can't use the first year score of a degree as well. It has to be a completed degree, and if it's not completed, then obviously standardized tests that meet the certain requirements.
Thank you, Tom. So you have Seneca. Maybe you have a question. You can go ahead.
Yes. Hi. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Thanks, Seneca.
Lovely. This is less of like an academic question, but more of like a social question. What do you think makes the Oxford student experience like more fun or unique compared to the other UK universities? Because it's all about like academics, and I know it's like the first ranked university from like ages by now, but like what makes it more fun? You know, fun does play a big factor in what you want to do in the future. Right? Cheers.
Thank you, sir, Seneca. Shataki, Nutra, maybe you can have a go at this.
Yeah, I can go ahead first. Yeah, I had a lot of fun socially at Oxford, I would say. There's so many societies. I was actually the president of the Oxford Sri Lanka Society for like 2 years. That society is very active. And there's loads of events. There's all like anything sport related you can think of. There's like Quidditch society, like all of these random like sport societies. And also when you're part of a college, there's so much social stuff you can do within a college. So there's always formals, which is really cheap, but you can like have like essentially like a 3-course dinner, like every other Sunday or things like this. And then I was also part of my college JCR, which is a junior common room, and then we have a committee where we use college budget to run events and things. And I was the equal opportunities representative, so I essentially got money from the college to run events for different communities within the college. And and then within subject societies as well, so there's like Oxford Biology Society, which I know, like ChemSoc, things like that, and those can be also really good opportunities for networking. So as well as socializing, you can make networks, which I found really helpful when you're thinking about graduating and careers. So there's a lot. So it's very like work hard, play hard type of situation in Oxford. But I really enjoyed it and cherish my time there. So yeah, I hope you agree, Nuthara.
Yeah, in my case, I'm a little bit less social than you, so I prefer to I know less people and I like spending all my time with them. So in my case, what I really love is the undergrad accommodation, because like everybody lives in college accommodation, so that means I spent all 3 years living next door to my best friends. So I cannot like emphasize how wonderful that was. So like we have shared kitchens and we live so close to each other, so we just like stay over, board game nights, we cook for each other. That has turned out both well and badly occasionally. And I just really value like that sense of community that you get when you can live with like other undergrads. So that's definitely one of the pluses for me.
Thanks, Nuthara. Thanks, Shataki. Tom, anything to add from your end?
No, as an old man now, I have nothing to say. However, I can talk about because I think I've been maybe beating you all over the head with the academic stick a bit too much. Yes, it will be academically intensive, as both of our students have mentioned. The terms are very short, so they're 8-week terms, and there's only 3 terms a year. So that means that there's actually a lot of time outside of the non-term time, which you have to yourself. But also we have 0th week and 9th week as well. So 0th week is 0 week, so as in before teaching starts, and 9th week is after week 8, which is where there's no more teaching as well. So there is there are lots of opportunities, as Shatuki and Nathara mentioned, in different ways, but it's really not just about study. Yes, it will be a full-time job's worth of like every week, 40, 45 hours, it will peak and trough, but there is lots of opportunities and time, as mentioned, for non-academic stuff, and that's really important. So I say, yeah, we're only looking for academia with regards to an application, but when students get here, the opportunities are available. They're huge and vast, or you can do nothing. It's entirely up to you, but they are available. So very good question.
Thank you, Tom. Seneca, I hope your question was answered.
Yes, much appreciated.
Welcome. Vagisha, you have your hand up?
Yeah, hi. So could you give some examples of the supercurricular activities you did to like enhance your application and show like your academic knowledge outside of school, specifically as a student who's like interested in economics or international relations?
Shatuki, Nathara? Yeah.
You want to go, Nathara, or should I start?
Well, I don't know what counts for economics and international relations, unfortunately. I could only say like what I did for computer science. Yeah, I'll go ahead and so mostly I hadn't done that much supercurricular bit related to computer science because I didn't decide on computer science until the last moment. I did mention the maths Olympiads I'd done because the Oxford Computer Science degree is very mathematical. So they care a lot about your math qualifications and interest. So I mentioned that I'd done these Olympiads and also that I played chess like competitively. So I connected that to like logical thinking and the kind of skills you'd need to like work on maths. So that was what I mentioned. But I think most people tend to apply with a bit more supercurriculars than I did.
Yeah, I can go through a little bit of mine as well. Like Tom mentioned, I read a couple of books, and when I was mentioning it in my personal statement, I didn't just say I read this book. I really engaged with the ideas that I was reading about, and then I was like, okay, I mean, I had to keep it quite short because the characters are, quite limited, but still, I got asked about it in my interview as well. So, it might be even, I mean, don't try to make it a book that the tutor is in or something, but like they knew about the book, so they asked me about it. But yeah, just engage with what you read, and then write about maybe the main point or something you agreed or disagreed with the author. So that's something I did. I also my work experience. So I did some work experience with like a nature conservation park. So I was talking about how I really got to kind of know about a lot of conservation policies at the time. And like different forms of conservation for animals, like in situ or ex situ, which is if you're conserving animals in a zoo versus if you're protecting them in their natural habitat. So things like that. So yeah, I think those two were my main ones. But yeah, something like a book related to your subject should be quite accessible. So, but yeah, don't just say you read it, really engage with the content and show that you have been interested and you've been thinking about it outside of just your A levels.
Which is good because, but again, both students give perfect experiential answers to this, where I can say it's personal to you. I think it was Vagisha that asked the question. It is personal to you. So if you want to do economics and management, for example, there is no book I can say that I say read this book and it will really help. That's not the case. In both of our students' examples, they're given something that is personal to them as to why they want to study that subject, and it's taken their interest further. You can do that with better than we can ever do for your particular subject interest. So if you see, you could even talk about something that you read and didn't find useful and didn't find interesting, because it shows that you're doing this research outside of school research and going further. I'm also really happy Nathara gave me contradicted me essentially. So earlier on, I talked about not wanting to look at extracurricular like running, jumping, climbing trees, sports captain, or chess. However, this is like an interview. You get new information and you get to talk around it as well. Nathara, perfect example with computer science. Computer science, there will be a lot of problem solving and logic as part of the course itself, as well as the mathematics. And talking about chess competitively as well gives the perfect example to show how an extracurricular activity can become supercurricular because it's subject focused outside of school. And that's what that activity is. And therefore, I'm assuming you were able to articulate in your personal statement why that links to computer science. So it can literally be anything as long as it is subject related. Another one that may be useful for students on the call to hear is Model UN. I would say initially Model UN sits in extracurricular activity because it's not necessarily subject focused. However, I know of one of my ambassadors who did geography a couple of years ago. She talked about Model UN because she used it as a chance for her to talk about climate change and climate science, and that linked with the geography degree that she wanted to do at Oxford. So if it's subject related and you're happy to talk about it in that way, then use it. That is super curricular. But it's personal to you. So it's really hard for us to say, read this or do that or do this, because if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. If you find something that you have a real interest in that links to the subject, go for it and go really granular if you want to and talk about it. As Shatuki mentioned, reflect on it and talk about why you found it interesting or why you didn't find it interesting as well.
Thank you so much, Tom, Nathara, Shatuki. I think we can join the main plenary. So the graduate students are joining in another 2 minutes or so. So we'll join in the main plenary. What you have to do is, I think, click on leave room and don't click on leave meeting. Just join the main plenary. And if you have more questions to the participants, maybe we can have a few questions after the wrapping up is done, if you have more questions. So join the main plenary, everyone. Thank you so much. Tom, while we wait for the grad plenary for the folks to join in, maybe if you can just answer, there's this one question by Nate. He says, hi, he or she says, hi, so I have 2 questions. First, when applying to Oxford, are all subjects done at A-level considered? Because I was given that idea that only the top 3 subjects are considered and the rest are ignored. Secondly, the integrated master's bachelor's degrees mentioned combines both into one qualification. So you entirely skip the undergraduate program? Question mark.
I mean, I can talk about that, but again, Shatuki may be the best person to talk about it. So most of our STEM courses at Oxford have an integrated master's in them. Actually, Nathara, you're in your 4th year now, aren't you, as well? So both of our students are doing them. It's not compulsory, but I think generally, if you're applying to do a STEM subject, you can see the course structure, you pretty much, we assume and you assume that you'll be doing all 4 years. I guess, Shatuki and Nathara, was it a question in your mind to not do it, or was it just a given? Maybe Shatuki first.
Yeah, it wasn't a question at all, actually. I thought it was a great opportunity because normally for a master's, you'd have to apply externally and get in, but actually just staying within to continue on to the 4th year was like, yeah. I think you had to get more than a 2-1, but I think, yeah, to just show that you're still performing quite, at a standard, because the master's is just research based. So actually I found it, yeah, I think probably one of my favorite years because it's obviously very fun going to lectures and learning about the subject you applied for, but actually getting to use that, and then through those years you can kind of see what you're liking, and then talk to lecturers even like in your 3rd year. And then like I said before, got to kind of use the networks or the connections I had with a professor at Oxford to do my research project in Sri Lanka. So that was awesome, and I think that. And now actually coming on to apply to a PhD, like it still got like I was still considered having basically an undergrad and research experience, which came out of just 4 years, which means that if you want to go into academia, it was very, very good. So yeah.
And a free trip to Sri Lanka as well, right?
Well, yeah, exactly, paid for. So
Yeah.
Yeah, same. In my case, I was actually quite worried that I wouldn't be able to do fourth year because I wasn't sure about the second upper. I did get it, so I'm very glad. Um, yes. So I think we count it as an undergrad, even though it's an integrated master's. So we call it the fourth year of the undergrad, and you don't get a BSc qualification if you stay for fourth year. You just get in my case, MCom Ski at the end. And I'm not thinking of going into research, so I'm going to go into industry after this. But I still think doing a master's, like, it's a great opportunity to just, like, go a bit further and stay at Oxford a bit longer. So that's why I'm doing it.
The second question, Sanjay, there was, or the first question, which is about, I guess, amount of A levels. Yeah. So as mentioned a while ago on the slides, we have the 3 A-level bandings if a student is taking A levels, so 3 A's, A star AA, or 2 A stars and an A. That is what the offer will only ever be based on. If students are taking more than that, then great. However, if it impacts attaining the grades that they need for those 3 A-level requirements, then that's not good. But if students are, I think last year it was 45 or 50% of students who got an offer were attaining 3 A stars or more. So that means that they were more than likely doing 4 A levels or more than 4 A levels. That means that there's still a big chunk of students who are not doing 4 A levels. But yeah, with the offer will only ever be based on what we have on our web pages, which would be currently 3 A's, A star AA, or 2 A stars and an A. Just taking more A levels just shows us that they can take on a higher academic workload. But if it impacts the final grades and they don't meet the offer, then they won't be able to meet the offer. So that's why it's a bit of a balancing act.
Thank you, Tom, Shatuki, and Nuttara. So Umanga, maybe you can wrap things up.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for actually all those who joined in, and especially Tom and Felicity. This is actually annual event, and a special shout out to Tanya as well from the British High Commission, who updated us on the key takeaways of the Shivani Scholarship, the changes that have been that have gone through, and we've had a great insightful session for the graduate admissions, and I hope it was the same for the undergraduate admissions. We'll still be here for any further Q&A if anyone wants to ask us, to ask the committee. But all in all, thank you so much, and I wish you guys all the very best in applying to Oxford, and I hope this session was useful. Thank you so much. And Sanjay, if there's any further Q&A.
So if anyone has any questions, we can just say for about, if Felicity, Tom, and Tanya are okay for about another 5-10 minutes, and Nuttara, Shatuki, and Rehan, we can stay maybe another 5-10 minutes maximum for any more general questions that everyone can support you. If not, you can ask your questions via chat, or you can just unmute yourself and ask questions. Thanks, Tanya. So Tanya sent her email across on the chat.
I've had a couple of people direct message me, so shall I answer those verbally?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Over to you.
So Francis has asked, can I apply as a freshly graduated student for PhD and still have a full scholarship? So I think what you'll be thinking of there is that Tanya was saying for the Chevening that you do need 2 years of, well, roughly equivalent to 2 years of work experience. That's a stipulation of Chevening with what it's set up to do. So yes, there absolutely are many Oxford scholarships where there's no work experience stipulation. So we do have people who finish their undergraduate degree in June and then start a graduate degree or a PhD in September, October. So yes, you can go straight on. And then I've had another question from Anjali. So these are relevant to graduate applications, I should say. And Anjali says, when it comes to selecting a college, what factors should we take into account? If applicants don't have a preference, on what basis are they assigned to them? So it does not matter at postgraduate level which college you apply to. You can specify a preference, but you don't have to. Surprisingly, some colleges that have scholarships have specific scholarships, and you don't have to apply to that college to be considered for the scholarship, so you don't disadvantage yourself that way. Anything really, if there's an alumnus that you admire, a writer, an actor, a politician, whoever that went there, pick it for that reason. It might be that there is a particular set of extracurricular activities. We mentioned choirs in our call, and someone was one of the alumni was saying that she actually sang in a chapel choir other than her college. Might be football, could be anything. At graduate level, the decision is made in the department, nothing to do with college at all. And then once you've got your place for the course, it's then considered by colleges. And people are allocated to colleges wherever there's still space. So that process is still going on at the moment. There are people with offers that we're just squeezing into colleges now. I suppose my key message is it isn't really a big deal, and choose whatever whimsical reason you like, because it's not part of the application process. That's all the direct questions I have had.
Thanks, Felicity. I haven't received any further questions here. Sanjay or any of the panelists, are there any questions?
No, none that I see. So maybe we can wrap things up, Maris. Yeah.
I
Yes.
had a question about the chances of getting into Oxford CS as a master's student, and I feel like the postgrad, I think Felicity might be better suited to answer this.
Sorry, the chances of getting into what as a master, as an
Computer
undergrad?
science as a master's
Okay.
student.
It depends exactly what course you're applying for. So does the person mean getting onto a DPhil as a master's student, do you think?
No, what I've had is they're currently doing a CS Plymouth UK degree at NSBM. And if they get a first class, what are the chances of them getting into Oxford Computer Science for a master's?
I mean, I can't say, with a first class degree from Plymouth, you will or won't. I just can't say, and it's not up to me. It's an academic decision. I would certainly say having a first class degree is very good, and that's from another university in the UK. As we were saying, you don't have to have gone to a Russell Group to get an offer. So I'd certainly say that sounds good. What it will come down to for the rest of it is your reasons for applying the course, for the course and aptitude for it, which is an academic decision.
Okay, I hope that helped. Tissot?
So I think I also got a question from Ashan. Are there any fixed rules when applying for a scholarship, or do they change annually?
Shall I take this one again? It sounds general. They can change annually, yes, and there are so many different funding sources for graduates that it's impossible to generalize. So I would say that they certainly could change annually, yes. I've had another direct message from Francis, which says, will sports and extracurricular be taken into account if you're applying for graduates? So the answer there is no. It would be your aptitude and fit for the programme. So just academic related.
Thank you, Felicity. Tanya, do you have anything to add, maybe from this evening for Ashan's question? Or
So for Chevening, the eligibility criteria is up on our website as well. Just that two updates where Chevening once again is only for a 1-year taught master's program, so you cannot apply for PhD or undergraduate degrees. So just the changes that has happened is we are looking for postgraduate work experience equivalent to 2 years. So, and also I've gone through the eligibility criteria. You can refer to the chevening.org website for more for the rules or the policies. But yes, they don't change. But if there are any changes, we will probably post on British High Commission's social media as well. Thank you. Hope that helps.
Great. Thank you so much, Tanya. And thank you so much to Felicity, Tom, and Tanya for actually joining in today. It was an immensely productive session. And thank you to Rehan, Shatuki, Notara, and Ashwini Maya, who joined in today. We hope to see you guys next year as well. So stay tuned and thank you so much. I think we should be able to wrap it up.